Welcome back, everyone. Tough way to start a new year. Multiple terror attacks right here in the U.S.
Yeah, a grim reminder of the threats we face. From all sides, really.
New Orleans is reeling. Bourbon Street, a pickup truck, gunfire. 15 dead, dozens hurt. It's just
Awful. Deliberately targeted a crowded area like that. The police chief said the attacker was hell-bent on carnage.
And this attacker, Shamsuddin Jabbar, he was Army, served in Afghanistan. What takes someone from there to that?
It's the question, isn't it? We don't want to speculate, but, well, veterans, especially after war, they're vulnerable. Coming home isn't always easy. Some find belonging in the wrong places.
The FBI thinks he might not have been alone, too. A wider conspiracy. That's a scary thought.
It is. If it was coordinated, that level of planning, it's a whole other level of worry. Makes you wonder what's next.
And just hours later, Las Vegas. A Tesla Cybertruck, packed with fuel and fireworks, explodes outside the Trump Hotel.
Wild, those visuals, fireworks shooting out as it blows up. Surreal. But the consequences are all too real. Drivers dead, 7 others injured.
And both vehicles, this one and the New Orleans truck, rented through that Turo app. Raises questions about security, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Turo, it's convenient, sure, letting people rent out their own cars, but this shows how it can be misused. Big question now is, how do you balance convenience with keeping people safe?
Tough one. One lawmakers in these tech companies are probably scrambling with right now. And then there's the possible connections to Trump, Elon Musk, even terrorism. FBI's looking into it all, but nothing concrete on IS involvement yet.
Got to be careful not to jump to conclusions, but the timing, right after New Orleans and that location, right outside Trump's hotel, it definitely makes you think.
Makes you think, all right. And speaking of motives, there's that Virginia case. FBI gets a tip, raids a farm, and finds over 150 bombs. Largest cache they've ever seen, apparently.
This guy, Brad Spafford, sounds like an extremist. They say he was using pictures of President Biden for target practice, even talking about wanting Vice President Harris dead.
In the details.
Yeah.
Disturbing doesn't cut it. Lost 3 fingers in an earlier explosion making these things. But he just kept going. Some of these bombs were stored near food where his kids could get to them. And HMTD, that stuff that can go off just from temperature changes, found a jar of it in his freezer.
It's a wake-up call. How easy is it to get this info, the stuff to make bombs? How do we track this stuff online? What are the signs someone's heading down this path?
Big questions, all of them. And it forces us to face it. Domestic terrorism is real. The danger isn't always from over there. It's right here at home.
Exactly. The Virginia case, it tells us we need to be vigilant.
Yeah.
Everyone. Law enforcement, sure, but everyday people too. Know the signs, report anything suspicious. We've got to be a tougher target.
So we've got a possible network in New Orleans and Vegas, and maybe a lone wolf in Virginia. All on day 1 of the year. What a start to 2025.
Yeah. Not exactly the fresh start we were hoping for.
It is not just here. The whole world feels shaky right now. Look at Ukraine. Things just got a whole lot trickier with North Korean troops joining the Russians.
That's got everyone on edge. North Korea, they've got a huge army. Cheap, battle-hardened, could be exactly what Russia needs to keep pushing forward.
What's in it for North Korea, though? They don't exactly have a history of helping out.
Good point. People are saying maybe Russia's offering them weapons tech, maybe even sharing some of their nuclear know-how in exchange for the troops, of course. If that's true, it's a bad sign. Could really mess things up in Korea and the whole region.
South Korea is definitely nervous. Imagine what it means for them if North Korea comes home with a better army and maybe even some new nukes. And while we're talking about things escalating, the U.S. and its allies just made a pretty big call. They're lifting the ban on Ukraine using long-range missiles to hit targets inside Russia.
Risky move, no question. I mean, yeah, it gives Ukraine a way to hit back harder, target stuff deep in Russia. But it also might be exactly what Putin needs to push things even further.
He's been waving that World War III flag a lot lately, hasn't he?
Yeah.
All that talk about nukes, it's supposed to make us back down, but how much of it is real?
That's the million-dollar question. We can't ignore threats from a nuclear power, but we can't let fear control us either. Putin's good at this, you know? Information warfare. He twists things, makes us doubt ourselves. It's all part of his game.
So, eyes open, but no need to panic, right? But even if we avoid the whole nuclear thing, this war is already a mess for everyone. Energy prices through the roof, food shortages on the horizon.
No doubt about it. Shows you how connected we all are. Something blows up over there. We all feel it over here. And this is far from over, unfortunately.
And Ukraine's just one piece of it. Gaza's still a disaster. Every day, more civilians die. Awful situation. And it feels like nobody has any answers.
It's a humanitarian nightmare over there. The world needs to step up, help those people. But we can't just throw bandages at it. We need to get at the root of the problem, the politics, the economics. That's the only way to stop it from happening again and again.
Right, it's about building real peace, not just putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. And then there's China and Taiwan. They've been dancing around each other for decades, but this feels different, like it could actually blow up.
China's playing hardball. They're saying Taiwan's theirs and they'll use force to take it back. All those military exercises, the tough talk, they mean it.
And the U.S. has said they'll defend Taiwan. So you got the two biggest militaries in the world staring each other down
Yeah.
and stuck in the middle. A little island democracy. That's a recipe for disaster, isn't it?
It really is. One wrong move, one miscalculation, it could be devastating. The U.S. is walking a tightrope here, trying to scare China off without starting World War III.
So let's recap. War in Europe, maybe war in Asia, a humanitarian crisis in the Middle East, and our own homegrown terror threats. Kind of makes you wonder if the world's gone crazy, doesn't it?
It's definitely a wild time. Lots of uncertainty, lots of things changing fast, but we can't just give up. Going to stay informed, talk to each other, try to understand what's going on, and support the people trying to make things better.
Easy to get lost in all that bad news, isn't it? But we can't let it get us down. Even now, there's good happening, people doing amazing things. And it's worth remembering that.
Absolutely. Times like these, it's even more important to focus on solutions, on working together.
Speaking of which, there's a big anniversary today. Kind of got buried under everything else. 5 years ago, the WHO got those first reports of, what was it, viral pneumonia in Wuhan. The start of it all, the pandemic.
5 years feels like a lifetime. And just yesterday, remember those first few months? All that fear, nobody knowing what to do, lockdowns, everything changing. It really put us to the test.
Yeah, showed us how fragile things are. Healthcare, the economy, everything. But we learned too. We adapted. Scientists developed vaccines in record time. Doctors and nurses were out there on the front lines, and people, regular folks, they found ways to connect, to help each other. We kept going.
And those vaccines, that was huge. Proof that we can do amazing things when we work together. We're not out of the woods yet, not with this virus, but we've come a long way.
No question. But we've got to learn from it, right? What went right? What went wrong? How do we avoid this next time?
And a big part of that is figuring out how it all started. The WHO, they're pushing China to be more open about those early days of the virus, calling it a moral and scientific imperative. Strong words.
Makes sense. If we don't know how it started, how do we stop it from happening again?
Exactly. Was it a natural thing, jumping from animals to humans? Or something else? Like, did it leak from a lab? We need to know.
And China's been pretty quiet about it all, haven't they?
Very much so. Denials, pushback against investigations, it just makes people more suspicious, fuels those conspiracy theories. That doesn't help anybody.
Just adds more fuel to the fire. We need to be working together on this, not pointing fingers.
Couldn't agree more. This is a global problem. We have to get past the blame game, focus on making things better, better health systems everywhere, better ways to track diseases. That's the only way to stop the next pandemic.
It's a lot to do, but I guess if the pandemic taught us anything, it's that even when things seem impossible, we can find a way.
We can. We saw the best of humanity, even in those dark days. The kindness, the creativity, the strength to keep going. And we'll need all of that going forward.
Well said. And on that note, that's the Daily News Roundup for today. It's been a tough one, no doubt about it. But remember, even when things are dark, there's always hope. Stay informed, stay involved, stay hopeful.
And remember, everyone has a part to play. Big or small, it all matters. Be kind to your neighbors, support the folks trying to make things better, even just staying informed and talking about these things. It all adds up.
Thanks for being with us today. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other.